GM. This week on Lucky Trader Lounge, we will be talking y00ts. That seems to be the main attraction this week. We'll talk about if they end up moving their mint, which some people are talking about. They had suspension of their accounts on Twitter and more today. Welcome, Tyler. So since Monday, a decent amount has happened with DGods and the y00ts. Some of their accounts got suspended on Twitter, partially due to the fact that they were automating tweets and just kind of pumping out tweets that were apparently against service or terms of service on Twitter. So they got suspended. There was this whole tweet that Frank had about how they've been hacked before. They've basically gone through this multiple times, and every time they persevered. However, prices on some of the stuff have come back down a little bit. So you wonder if the market really cared about that as much. We see dust is down today. Of course, there was a deadline that they said by Wednesday to have the dust in your account. So I think people that were doing that trade are getting out of it. And then with the y00t list stuff, now you can only find out if you go into their Discord, which could be bullish on the community aspect of it. You're in their Discord. However, you don't get all of that Twitter clout that came with it was like 400 or 500 engagements on each of those tweets. So how's it going? What are you thinking so far with this y00t stuff?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a disappointing or letdown week in the NFT space. I had really high hopes coming into this week. I even said in my preview, this could be the single biggest week for NFTs since the other side launch. I don't think we're going to make it there unless we have some kind of a blow-off weekend. And a big part of that is all the uncertainty with the y00ts. Yeah. It's never good to have your account suspended the week of the mint, and now the whole mint is in jeopardy and question. Is it going to happen this weekend? I would not bet firmly it happens this weekend, even though the rumors are that it's going to happen on Sunday now. The odds of it happening tomorrow, as originally scheduled, seem very low at this point. And in one hand, I think it's good to do it right. You don't want to have a botched launch, but this also kind of shows that maybe they aren't all that prepared, which is somewhat of a red flag for such a high-profile mint. So I don't know, not the best week for y00ts here. With all the momentum they had coming into this week, the momentum's tailing off a little bit. Not what you want to see right before the mint.
Yeah, I do have some concerns with that. I don't think it would be good for them to do it over the weekend. I think if you don't do it on Friday, you probably want to push it to like Tuesday, with Monday a US holiday. Also, next week, a lot of people are going to mentally start preparing for NFL season that starts on Thursday. I do think that this is kind of a big point in this project specifically because it's on Solana. A lot of people that already weren't too interested in Solana NFTs are becoming a part of this. So if you lose their attention when they might have already had less attention than they normally do for minting these types of projects, that could be a bad thing. Also with the 15,000 supply. So yeah, it's not a great sign if they can't do this, and they've been somewhat quiet on specifics of the mint leading up to this outside of it was going to be tomorrow. So I think it'll be interesting. They kind of have to come out with some sort of announcement here within the next, I don't know, like you want it soon. You hope that it's tonight. Yeah. But I'd say like if they don't have an announcement by noon tomorrow, like, and there's all these questions, it's not a great sign either. I don't know if I'm on the list yet. If I'm not on the, and granted, I think it's fine that I don't yet know that I'm on the list, but I also want to know if I'm on the list and it's on Sunday and I'm not around on Sunday or something. Like I would want to know that. So that's sort of my thinking with it. And then
just on that note, I mean, people have been bottled up for 3 years now. This is going to be a huge travel weekend.
Yeah.
And granted, sometimes NFT traders aren't the most to go outside all that often, but I think this is a terrible weekend to launch.
Yeah.
I I would guess that our NFT volume is at yearly lows this weekend. So from that perspective, there's not going to be that much liquidity. And then you also risk that everyone who was maybe on the fence who applied because all their friends were applying, it's the hot product to apply for, but are ultimately okay sitting this trade out, they may just not check in.
Yeah.
And I mean, now you're starting to work through a wait list and all that. It gets really messy. And I was preparing for the show. I was preparing my article for tomorrow, previewing this mint that was supposed to be on Friday. I've got no information, no clue from this team what's going on. So that's they gotta quell that. They gotta put something out there, even if it might be Sunday, but we're not locked in. They gotta give us some kind of directional info here.
Yeah, and I think that it's also the type of thing where this is one of the more heavily traveled holidays, like you said. Tomorrow's the Friday, so that also goes back to, I really want them to announce something tonight, because people are going to start traveling tomorrow. If you announce something at 2 p.m. on the Friday before a long weekend, like, that's not a great sign either. So hoping they come out with something later today that just sort of clarifies any of the question marks as far as if they still are doing the mint tomorrow, specifics on time, and how we still don't know if the mint is going to be you can mint anytime in the next 24 hours or a week. Like, if it's set up that way, then maybe they open the mint on Sunday, it's open for a week. I don't think that would necessarily be the worst thing, but we don't know that yet. So that's a little of what's going on with y00ts. The future proof stuff, I'm sure we'll talk a little about that, but that was the other big thing heading into the week. But let's look at a little of the macro stuff before switching back over to that. So on the project rankings page, we have Digi. The Digis are still leading the way. Those have officially flipped Moonbirds and are seemingly there to stay, at least for now. They got up to like 16 on the show on Monday. And Gabe Layden has just been pumping out tweets, and he's becoming sort of memorable. Like, a lot of people are coming out with just, he's not necessarily a shit poster. We're unsure. He's I don't know how you would describe it. I'd say he is like born and raised in the internet age kind of thing. He's not full on shit posting. He's also got the CEO side. His picture is obviously him wearing that suit. So he's kind of like a mix between both. So to me, like, he's sort of solidifying himself as somewhat of an influencer, but like a name in the NFT space. And Digis are holding up pretty well so far. So why do you think they're still in the top of the leaderboard here?
First, we got to talk about Gabe a little bit. I have so many thoughts. I mean, this guy went from no following a month ago. Now he's like the talk of NFT Twitter. He is a meme. Him in this suit might be like the hottest image of the last week or so in the NFT Twitter space. So he's went from zero to incredibly relevant. I feel like, so we talked about him on the show before. He's a game founder. He's had tons of success in Web 2 gaming, free to play games. He launched Digi Stealth. That Twitter account had less than 200 followers when Digi minted. When it launched the free mint, it had less than 200. I want to say Gabriel was in a similar state. And we talked about Digi's on the show the day it came out. One of my hesitations was their Twitter activity. They had like no communication whatsoever, like maybe one tweet every few days. Clearly someone told Gabe, like, hey, this is NFTs. Like, you have to put content out and you need to use Twitter. And he's taken that to heart, and he's turned into this villain in a lot of ways, primarily because he was kind of taunting sellers last week, saying, "Hey, we have this huge announcement coming. Can't believe you're selling. You are going to look, really stupid." Monday, he drops the huge bomb, $200 million raise, and comes out swinging, saying, "Free to play, his game model is going to take over the space. Paid mints are dead." He's asking everyone, how are your paid mints going for you right now? And that drew some backlash, understandably so, but it got everyone talking. And right now, the attention meter for Digidaigaku and Gabe Layden is at all-time high, and it's been reflected in the price, right? I mean, it moved from 5 ETH to 16 ETH on Monday. Then all the influencers who missed this project were just slamming the top button. This is topped. Anyone buying here is going to regret it. Well, guess what? It went down, understandably, after a huge run. It's starting to work its way back up. And now there's another big airdrop coming tomorrow. So I don't think we'll see a ton of sell pressure ahead of that airdrop. It's coming in the early afternoon. But I think after this airdrop, the success of what this next NFT is, then his ability to maintain the market's attention will kind of dictate what happens from here, because we've already had a huge announcement this week of a massive raise and an airdrop. It's going to be hard to keep, topping that, so to speak.
To me, I feel like he's a more competent Ryan Carson. He has similar, like the way he tweets is somewhat similar about things, but he's not like, I feel like when I read something he says, I believe what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like he actually seems more trustworthy when he talks about like knowing how to run a business. And I mean, he must be doing things well, because you have the 200 million raise. And didn't someone say that was actually confirmed? Which I don't know if people were thinking it was a fake number before, but it's been a little more confirmed. So he put out that tweet earlier that says, "FYI, I've never tweeted before because I'm a bit dyslexic and I make mistakes. We could just do it live." And yeah, I think he's just saying, like, I'm not someone who like writes well. I think that's how I read it. He's more of like a in person, I'll talk to you, I know what I'm talking about. It doesn't always switch very easily to text, which a lot of people I think can agree with on that side. But yeah, you can't really, his history of products that he's been involved in have been pretty good. So it's hard to really be against it in that sense. So we'll see how this keeps moving along. If Digis are truly here to stay, they're kind of replacing Goblin Town right now in this like sort of attention phase where they're still early on. However, have they really done much outside of that raise? So I think with this airdrop that's coming up, that'll be one of the first indicators on how the market, do they want to be a part of this? And generally speaking, I don't know, what's your thought with it? I think people usually will gravitate towards this first thing after one of these boom like that, trying to go off of that momentum. And that's the second thing you want to avoid. So are you planning on trying to get in onto this airdrop that Digis are expecting to do here?
So luckily, as a holder, I'll be getting 2 airdrops. So I don't intend to sell before this in any capacity.
Before
the airdrop, right?
Oh, but the airdrop itself, are you planning on holding and seeing or potentially staking it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely need to see it. I've been thinking a lot about how to play this, is because it's quickly become, a valuable asset. And I'm getting more bullish long term. And I'm starting to think, like, if I was going to rotate away from this ecosystem that just got a $200 million raise, where am I going to rotate to that I see stronger prospects in this terrible bear market right now? So I'm definitely going to see let this play out a little bit. If this airdrop it flops, that might be tough to recover from here in the near term. So I'll have to take that into account. I think the other piece of this is what announcements they're going to do afterwards. Starting to talk about airdrop 3. What does this mean for just, are these now airdrop holders eligible for the next NFT? Continue this free to own ecosystem, expanding universe going. How's that all going to play out? So those are my kind of off the cuff thoughts. I'm encouraged that the floor is kind of rebounding here in the last 24 hours ahead of this event. I think that shows at least some interest in the value of this airdrop. The way this week has been playing out from a macro NFT perspective is one project is the attention of each day, and it's trading around 1,000 to 1,500 ETH or so. I think tomorrow this will be the attention project. It'll likely get roughly that amount of liquidity. Whether it then goes up and kind of increases the value of this ecosystem and is a great return for holders, or if it crashes the digi floor and the airdrop kind of falls in value, I think that's going to dictate the near-term trading for this ecosystem. But right now, I think things are looking good.
And this is also assuming y00ts don't mint, because I think if y00ts were to mint tomorrow, that also has a lot of attention around it. What are you thinking for the price of this? Because to me, my thought would be people are holding the digis for this. They'll probably hold above 10. That seemed to be where the buy pressure was back on that last dip. So maybe it drops to 10 and they become like 10 and 3 or something like that. I don't think you'll be able to get one of these airdrops for less than an ETH, probably not even less than 2 ETH. So what are your thoughts on that? Because historically, there haven't been too many of these listed. There's only 125 listed right now. I would assume more of the airdrop pieces get listed than the OG digis. However, they're probably out of those other 1,900 or so that are being held. Probably expect another 100 of those to be listed after airdrop. So how much of a dip are you expecting post airdrop on these?
No, I think you're probably right on. 2 to 3 was my kind of where my head was at for price range. It's tough to predict though because of the price action we've seen. So when the airdrop was first announced, the floor was around 1.3 to 1.5. It kind of jumped to 2.5 to 3 ETH range. But we knew it was coming. As it got closer to, like over this past weekend, the digis ran to about 5.6. So now you're talking about, a 3 to 4 ETH increase. But how much of that was on the announcement hype versus the airdrop hype? Then, of course, the announcement came, the floor jumps up 10 ETH. So now it's hard to kind of separate the two into, what drove the floor up, how much of that percentage was from the announcement of the raise versus the airdrop. So it's total just kind of guesswork at this point. But, using that standard kind of 5 to 1 ratio, which I feel like we always come back to, it feels like 2 to 3 is probably the range on this one. I think there will likely be a rare lotto, given that we've seen 20 ETH, 50 ETH sales on the Genesis set. If the rarest of this next collection will likely see, I'd say somewhere, 10 to 15 ETH upside, which, might be enough to pull the floor up. And then having, an entire year and a half of history with these airdrops, like we have to assume the digi floor is going to drop, relatively in line with the value of the airdrop, right? That's how just about every single one of these has played out, unless they also bring in, the next announcement right away. So I think we can expect digis to probably, and I think you're right on, 10 and 3 feels like the right area, plus or minus 1 ETH on each side.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be, depending on what it is, the airdrop itself, I think is also going to determine it, because there could be people that buy it back up from 10 back up to 12 too, after, because it seems like people are somewhat solidifying this now as an asset worth holding. And we get a little into the proof side of things, but proof is somewhat on a downturn. So there are people that are shifting over to here. So you have right up now the oddities. Oddities had an interesting little week during the proof, I guess, the future proof stream that happened on Tuesday. It had some, and you could see it in this chart, but there was a little roller coaster on the oddities where they ran way up when people thought, oh, we're going to need these. They're going to be very useful so that I can get Moonbirds 2, or whatever these mythics are. And then it sort of came all the way back down when you realized, well, it was only 25 a day. And then it was like, well, it's going to take a whole year to get that entire supply out. And then the team is coming back and adjusting things. And it was a little messy. That 2 to 3 hour period between the start of that stream to the end, there was a lot of movement in the proof ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of interesting to watch. But what are sort of your thoughts with all this?
Well, I've got oddities up, so let's talk about them, and then we can pull back and talk about some of the bigger picture of future proof. But here, zoomed in, you can see the price action live during the event. So from the preview 2 weeks ago, there was talk that you could burn an oddities to get a mythic. We didn't really know the details of it, if it was going to be 1-to-1, multiple to 1. So anyways, people are buying, and on the hype ahead of the event Wednesday, the price starts creeping up close to 2 or so. Live during the event, they start talking about oddities, and they say, yes, you'll be able to essentially hatch a mythic from the oddities. The floor skyrockets. It is straight up to about 2.4, 2.5. These things are selling like hotcakes, 5 to 10, per minute. Then they hadn't finished their thought yet. They said, and oh yes, you can expect mythics to come out Q1 2023. And there's the dump right there. The nature of the short-term traders who are speculating in this market wanted nothing to do with the Q1 23 product and ran for the exits. It immediately dropped to 1.5. It actually rebounded back to like 1.8, 1.9. And then it's just been a slow bleed here for the last few days. It's back to 1.2. I expect a full round trip, to where it was before any of this news came out. So likely, that 0.8 to
just
1
range.
And then, of course, ahead of Mythics, it'll probably start to rebound. But folks just don't want to lock their ETH up, especially with the merge coming. But we kind of went straight into the details. There was a lot that came out of this conference, and I think most of what I'll call more like the serious investors in the proof ecosystem came away pretty happy with the event. Clearly Kevin and the team have big visions. It was a very well communicated hour. They walked through each of the foundations, each of their products, and they were succinct and talked really 3 to 5 minutes. This is the plan for each of these. And if you want, we can just go through a few of the highlights. I think what maybe came off the best was Proof Pass. They talked about all of their plans for art curation. They're essentially going to have 4 different aspects to it. There's going to be the Grails, which is 3 times a year. They're going to have Proof Collabs. They got this new product called Curated, where they're going to leverage the existing artists in their ecosystem to help curate and find new new NFT artists who are hot but maybe undiscovered, to bring them to the Proof Collective as a way of discovery. And then Genesis, which I think might be the coolest of the 4, which is where they're going to be onboarding traditional artists to do their first NFTs, and the proof holders will have the first access to that. So there could be some real value there. As we've seen artists like Nina Chanel with Goda Pass, right? She came out with her first NFT, sells 5,000 of these things at 0.5 ETH. That's 2,500 ETH raise, right out of the gate. And I'd say Kevin team absolutely have the power to get artists of that stature or higher. So as a proof holder, I think you're coming away from that announcement feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it does seem like the biggest of the winners were proof pass holders. Um, saw a lot of Moonbirds holders not so happy, and Kevin even called out some alpha discords that were selling, which it's a little different than when Gabriel has said different tweets. Like when Kevin is saying it, and they've been down for the past 3 months, and he's been kind of saying things like that recently. Like it's not as much of the like you'll be sorry, but he kind of has been hyping all of these announcements up, and none of them have really lived up to necessarily the hype. They talked about this like in chain thing that the Moonbirds are going to be in chain instead of saying it on chain, and then the on chain maxis come out and they're like, that isn't anything new. You're not doing anything crazy. Like everyone knows what that is by now. You're like a year late on it. So there's still tons of haters of Kevin that come from the Web2 space who have not really seen anything that he does as too innovative. The nesting thing has seemed to work. However, like it's just another version of staking, you know? So I don't know. There's not that many Moonbirds listed as there generally are. It wasn't like people were rushing to the gates. People that wanted out got out in that few hour window there. There were a couple bigger sales. We saw that 40 ETH sale thrown in there. But yeah, I mean it seems relatively flat in that like 10 to 15 range that it's been trading between, well, more like 12 to 15. It's basically just been in that range for the past month or so. So it seems like that's just this new bucket. And let's see, I think it's still 2 months away from the next nesting level. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of months here with Moonbirds. But overall, I don't think they did anything groundbreaking in this, that they kind of hyped it up that way beforehand. So I don't know. I think more neutral. I think these were things that were kind of expected to be said. They didn't really talk too much about the Project High Rise Raven stuff. Like, why are they talking about mythics now when this is like a whole new thing? Whatever happened to Ravens, you know? So I don't know. What's your, if you
Yeah,
are bullish, neutral, or bearish from future proof?
I think slightly bullish for Moonbirds, though I totally understand those who were disappointed. I think the most disappointing piece was they kept telling us day after day to make sure you're in your nest
Yeah,
for the event, and then nothing, right? And now the chatter is, oh, when the token is released, and they did announce that the proof token is going to come in early 2023. That was the keynote last announcement of the event. There's a lot of speculation that it's going to be kind of backdated. Those who are in their nest, as of this date, will potentially get more. But again, that's all speculation. So certainly, folks who were expecting something left a little disappointed there. I think the primary value add, which was news, was like this proof DAO. We learned a little bit more that essentially the Moonbirds owners, proof owners, they'll be able to participate in this DAO that will be funded from the proof treasury along with ongoing royalties from the Moonbird sales, where they'll essentially be able to bring ideas and get funding for projects. And as I think about what is a foundational component of an NFT project that will have legs and help sustain and draw new members to the ecosystem over time for 2 years, 5 years, I think it's got to be things like this, right? Like, this is the hallmark of Nouns DAO, so certainly not a new idea from Kevin, but I think it's a strong idea. And I keep coming back to the idea of the Digital Country Club. What is going to attract new members to this Digital Country Club that right now costs $20,000 to get in the door? Well, the ability to pitch ideas and get funding from this DAO is a driver. That's not something that's going to help Alpha Group trader Joe Smith who's just looking for a 2 week flip or scalp in the next 2 days, and that's why the market dumped. But longer term, I think it is bullish. So I like that, but again, it's delayed. It's delayed gratification for Moonbirds owners, to say it lightly. I think high rise. I would not be putting all my eggs in the high rise basket. I like what they're doing with it. I think it could be cool. I don't know that it's going to be a game changer or really disrupt everything just yet. So I'm a little bit cautious there. And then the question for any token is what's going to give this token value. So I'm happy they didn't rush it out. I actually think if they would have dropped the token, I mean, what do you think if they would have actually airdropped 10,000 tokens to everyone? It probably would have dumped, right? Like, how could it have sustained?
I mean, we've seen that with other projects such as Cool Cats, Pixel Vault. They came out with these tokens and gave out so many tokens and didn't even have everything built out, and the Sync's built out, like the Pixel Vault one. Probably worse than the Cool Cats, because Cool Cats had the reason to do it, but they kind of did the math wrong, so to speak. But yeah, if you just came out with the token, people would just be dumping it. You don't have to rush tokens out. It's actually better if you take a long time with them, because that means you're going through all the legal factors involved, making sure that you can have an actual token in the US, across the world, wherever you may be. So yeah, I think it's good that they didn't do that. They just teased it. They said, we're expecting to do it early 2023. We'll have more details coming out. So in that sense, should be good. And I don't know, did you hear anyone that went to the physical event?
So you cut out a little bit. Did I hear
the physical event?
Physical event?
Yeah, I didn't really see much from it. Granted, there were a lot less people that went versus the NFT NYC event, but I didn't really see much about the physical event that night in Venice. So who knows? But yeah, I wasn't sure if you saw anything.
No, and I still had like 1% hope for a check your wallet moment at the physical event. Of course, that didn't come. I think what's interesting is today they just announced no more Friday parliaments. They're going to do like the Discord meetings to do events like they did the Future Proof preview, which I think makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have enough content for the next quarter, while they're actively trying to build these things out. So hopefully they don't pull doodles and just no information or tweets for a full month. Yesterday, Tropo Farmer had had like a countdown, 11 hours left for doodles not to tweet in August, which I thought was fine. So hopefully they don't go that far, but I understand, the time for weekly updates, may not be right now.
Yeah, and I think we saw that with Cool Cats, that they had been doing a weekly town hall for so long. You just end up week over week either saying the same things or not really having many updates, or just having, oh, well, we're still looking for that person that was going to fill this role. We're still doing this. It becomes too much. It's better to do it monthly or every other week or something like that. So let's get into the artifact stuff. So they're fourth on this list for us, if you don't really count the Women Ape Club. But they've had a decent amount of volume this week. They had some announcements earlier. Surprisingly, they did it around the same time as Moonbirds, which I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it seems like they didn't have the greatest response. But they're doing this foraging, and basically you still have to pay to get merch. There's physical, there's digital merch. However, like we've come through this path, especially with like Clone X in general. Most of their stuff was airdropped in the past. Here with foraging items, you now have to pay a small fee, which adds up if everyone does it. But yeah, so they have this Clone X foraging season 1, the next generation fashion unlocked by your avatar. So what's your thoughts on this? Because I know that you are pretty bullish on the digital fashion, digital apparel side of things. So how did you take this one?
Definitely mixed feelings. So I think there's a lot to unpack. I think what the gut punch for this one was from Tony, the Lucky Trader writer. He did the math, and it was like a $95 million raise if they sold out all of
Yeah.
these wearables. So like when you see that price tag and the depths of this bear market, like that's brutal, right? Just to think about that type of liquidity leaving the market right now, that's a whole week of OpenSea NFT trading volume right now. So that's tough. On the flip side, Artifacts has rewarded their early holders probably more so than any other team, except maybe Yuga.
Yeah.
I'd have to sit down and even do the math. From those who own the original pigeons, it's probably pretty close with all the airdrops that they've gotten over the last 2 years or so. But the challenge is people who bought Clone X last week don't have that history, right?
Yeah.
So now they want the airdrops. And of course, there has to be, at some point, Artifacts and Nike are going to start selling versus giving away for free. And we appear to be at that point. That being said, I think these wearables are cool. And there's a few aspects to it. So each of the Clone X DNA types are able to mint different items, digital shirts, hats, socks, hoodies, and digital shoes. And besides the shoes, they're all eligible to be forged for physicals as well. The physical the forging is included within the price. Along with this, there's 5 Genesis wearables that any Clone X holder is able to mint as well, regardless of DNA type. So there's the Genesis, and then there's the DNA specifics. But a little bit of sticker shock when you go through these, right? So this is the human.
Yeah.
Human's the floor DNA type for Clone X. 0.08 for a T-shirt, so that's over $100. 0.04 for the cap, the hoodies.
$60 hat.
$60 hat.
I mean, most of my NFT hats I've gotten for free. Got 2 for Moonbirds.
And the shoes are 0.38 with no promise of physicals. I think we assume there will be a physical. That's tough. Like the Nike Genesis Crypto Kicks Series 1 are trading at like 0.52, I want to say. Yeah. I haven't checked in the last few days. So not too much more than that. You have to assume those are more valuable than these.
Yeah, I mean, an Air Force One, you could argue makes a little, like, out of all these things, this one might make the most sense on price. Mm-hmm. Like if you go to the regular sneaker market. But yeah, I agree. It's some of these things, when you break them out into the USD side, part of the issue is doing this on Ethereum. It's hard to really make it cheaper in a way, because you're probably paying, like, even on that $40 transaction, you're paying $5 in gas, so it's almost like if it was a $12 hat, you're probably paying half that in gas fees. So that's part of the issue here. But yeah, I agree. It's they could argue, oh, you can still sell the digital to it, but if you're claiming a physical, why would someone want that digital? So they're trying something here, which we'll see how it really flows. But is there a time that they have to do it by, the forging?
I want to say you have like a week to mint, I want to say. I haven't done a full deep dive on these. Let's see if it's in this thread. I mean, the Murakami stuff is sick. That feels like a must mint if you've got the Murakamis. Let me see. It's going live this Wednesday. The mint window is going to be open for 1 week. Physical forging will be 7th to 14th of September. So this is coming quick. A few thoughts. So, like, if you don't want to put 7 ETH out to get to be able to leverage minting on the primary through your Clone X, you could buy secondary. And I'm a little surprised at the secondary action. So there's over 800 ETH traded on this already. It seems shocking to me. Um, so clearly there is demand for these, and I haven't gone through all these price points, but I want to say they're pretty close, or maybe cheaper than they are on primary. So I don't totally understand minting on primary to just dump for cheaper on secondary, unless you just have instant regret. But the point being, if someone is bullish on these as early artifact Nike digital wearables, you can buy the individual clothing items on secondary and still be able to get your physicals here instead of trying to go through the CloneX route. So definitely check that out. I'm trying to see where. Let's see if we can get to the shoes.
Yeah, a bunch of these are pretty much in line with the mint price. Even the base shoe. Yeah, so the base shoe is the same. Well, cheapest of the shoes, I should say. I don't know if that's considered a base one, but the one that they had on the picture that we were looking at before is only 0.4. So pretty much in line.
So yeah, so if you like those, maybe just go straight there. This one, which
is that the Murakami?
I don't think. Oh, this is the Murakami for 0.68. That feels too cheap, right?
It's the same guy trying to sell them all.
So then, what's one of them was 4.4. I gotta check this out. So
only 90 of them.
Okay, so there must be some kind of a difference here.
Oh, so there's more than one Murakami then. This one is also a Murakami.
Yeah, so this is the price I would have expected for Murakami, right around 4, 10x the floor. That feels right. At just 50% more than the floor, this Murakami drip, this almost makes me feel like they're fake or something. So I don't know. I'm going to look at this right after the show. This could be the play on the board here. But it's a cool drop. I like what they're doing with digital wearables. They are the leaders in NFT wearable space right now, in my opinion. And I think this is going to be very relevant 3 to 5 years down the line for those who can have longer term time horizons. I think these are going to be really strong collector's pieces, but it does not mean anything for short term price action. People are going to need liquidity to do other things, and you can most assuredly project that they're going to fall below current prices.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think that's one, if you are in the CloneX artifact ecosystem, check out before the deadline if you're interested. Yeah, I do think part of it is the count. I'm not sure. So if you had a Murakami drip, you would end up with this one. Is that how that works, or is it still random?
You could only get the Murakami drip if you had the DNA. Was my
from the CryptoKicks.
From the CloneX.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the math here. So there's 1,500 of those. So something's going on.
Right. That's what I mean. Is this DNA one upgraded from having the CryptoKicks, one of the skin vials or whatever? And these were upgraded potentially to be a Murakami DMA. Like the other one is the base Murakami. This is the upgraded one. That's what I was thinking.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll have to get the Discord to figure this one out.
Cool. So yeah, then did you want to talk more about the y00ts stuff, or we already covered a chunk of it?
We hit it hard. I think a few things. So like this, here's the dust price. It's 280 right now from local highs at 380. I think this is also a sentiment meter. I think a pretty fair reflection of the sentiment meter for y00ts right now. Those Twitter suspensions and the lack of those applications coming through on the news feed has definitely hurt attention, along with the lack of information about when the mint is. That being said, we had a huge sale. Here it is. This Dead God sold for 7,000 SOL. We did a little bit of researching on CryptoSlam before the show. The highest SOL sale for DeGods that I saw was 1,400. So this smashed the SOL all-time high. Of course, SOL is down quite a bit from its peak.
Yeah.
But 220,000, that is a legitimate sale. This is only the number 20 rank as well. So, not even top 5. So that's certainly a bullish indicator. I don't know too much about, who the buyer is or the backstory there. So that's bullish. I guess bearish was kind of looking at the DGODS floor. So, we talked a little bit about airdrop price action in the Digi section of the show. You typically expect the floor to increase ahead of an airdrop and then dip right afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so now DGODS is
Did
coming back. It was so DGODS was
into the
580 on
suspension.
our show on Monday. They
Yeah.
were 480 this morning, so they dropped 100 sol, fairly significant, 20% dip. On ahead of this mint. It's not great, but they're rebounding. They're back at 545, so that makes me feel a little bit better about market sentiment.
Yeah. And it's not like Sol went up in price. If anything, over the past week, Sol has gone down a few dollars in price. So that is also part of it. Like, it's not like Sol went from $30 to $40 and the Sol number went down. So, yeah, I agree with you there. I think part of it has to do with the Twitter suspensions, the uncertainty on are they still going to mint tomorrow, and then that one looks to be the top sale of a DGOD ever, and it kind of went somewhat under the radar. Like, if that happened last week on Saturday or Sunday, like, I feel like everyone would have been talking about it. But I mean, I didn't see this for a few hours after. Like, it did happen overnight too. Like, you ever wonder that when someone buys a big item like that, like, why are you buying it at 1 a.m.? Don't you want to buy it like when people could start talking about it?
So
Granted,
clearly, yeah.
it has 3,700 likes, it has 1,000 retweets and 300 quote tweets, but yeah, it just seemed weird that it happened like overnight. So then news coverages aren't talking about it, but I mean, still a massive sale. So there are people
Yeah,
still high on it.
you're right. I didn't really think about that, but someone who's buying over the middle of the night is maybe either in a different country or doesn't care about doing it for clout, which couldn't be me because I would be milking this purchase for every follow I could.
Yeah.
But you're right. Not that many people were talking about this, even though it has, or at least not in my circle. So clearly, I'm not following all of the 1,400 people who retweeted this thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a huge story. Like, this is the biggest NFT sale, or one of the biggest single NFT sales ever for Solana. For the DGODS project, right ahead of the most hyped mint of the summer, and not that many people were talking about it. So I don't know. The attention meter, the sentiment meter is definitely down from where it was last week when it was just up only mode. Frank and the team, that they've got to do what they can to rally that back up ahead of the mint, or I think it might be a little bit more disappointing than some folks were hoping.
Yeah. Cool. So hopefully we'll get some more information, and maybe this weekend we'll be hopping in the Soul Streets. However, we have potential another one. I don't know if we've even talked about a Coinbase NFT drop before today, but Wu Tiger Clan. So you were talking about this earlier. This is going to be happening on Coinbase NFT tomorrow, and I don't know what are your thoughts on this, because they've already reduced the price on it. It is on Coinbase NFT. Maybe not a lot of people have been following it, but talk to us about these Wu Tiger Clan.
Oh man, I went through like the entire cycle of emotions, reactions to this one in like 5 minutes. So I was preparing for the weekend mints. I saw Wu Tigers on this from the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, oh man, this could be sick. And then I see it's on Coinbase. Like, okay, maybe this is going to be finally a good mint for Coinbase. I don't really think so. So a few negative factors. One, I haven't really spent much time on Coinbase's site, and this is not a great project web page. I come to this, I have no idea what the supply is going to be. I see random comments. They've got 360 followers on here. That's nothing that excites me. I go to the Wu Tiger website, and underwhelming, it does not even do it justice. So This looks like a website that someone created in maybe 30 to 45 minutes. There's very little information, about the project. I didn't even see the supply or mint price anywhere on this project page. Probably because they're changing it on the go based on community sentiment behind the scenes. So none of that's great. They're just pounding the word utility into people's minds who are reading this. A collection of utility-enabled PFPs. Um, the longer you hold it, the more benefits. Private club membership, collabs with top brands, NFT and IRL drops more over time. And then again, as word is bond, utility is our top priority. So like someone clearly told them that you need to hammer in utility, even though anyone following the current meta knows that utility is out right now. We're in a post utility world in the NFT sphere right now. So their advisor should be fired. They're probably not going to make that much money anyway, because I doubt this mints out. Originally, it was going to be 10,000 NFTs at 0.08 ETH. They've already dropped it to 0.05. That's just such a sign of no confidence in your project. A day before mint, that I don't know. I struggle to see how this one's going to do well.
Yeah, I've been just on the fading of Coinbase NFTs. I do go on Coinbase app a decent amount. That if I'm like on my phone, that's what I'll do to check crypto prices. And right when you open the app, like it's Wu Tiger Clan pops up. So they are doing some marketing for this one. We haven't seen too many Coinbase NFTs really do much. Like the Bill Murray, there was a big sale on Bill Murray earlier this week. But outside of that, like look at this volume. There was one CryptoPunk that sold in the past day, and without that, there's only one. I don't know if you can even count. Can you even count the Rarible one? The next highest is 0.43 ETH on a 1 day. So there's just the amount of volume over here.
Did you Daigaku sold 3,000 ETH on Coinbase? This has got to be across. This has got to be across marketplaces. No, that's how much they sold. So okay, we can't look at these numbers. But man.
But yeah, like there's not much going on over there. It's hard to say that they'll be able to sell out 10,000 of anything. We saw that with even the Bill Murray one, like the original drop that they were talking about selling out, they sold like 80 of them. And the whole thing was only 1,000. So to me, I expect this one to struggle to sell out 10,000. If they drop the price again, like I don't even know if that'll work. It's just kind of Coinbase NFT has just been so bad overall as far as like actually bringing people on board with it. So I don't know. It'll be if I probably won't be looking to mint this tomorrow, but
basically
if it mints out, maybe we will want to go over there.
If it mints out, that would be enough momentum for it to probably get a short hype cycle.
Yeah.
I want to show that though, for anyone who follows the low cap sector closely, it's been a pretty brutal week, and it's been basically the same trend for all the projects. So there's been a handful of new ones who have caught at least some traction, probably in the 200 to 500 ETH range on secondary. The Phoenixes, the Lasagnas or the y00ts, Prisoner of War NFTs, those three, and the Semegis are four that came to mind, and they all had this pretty similar price arc where they came out of the gate with lower supply, somewhere in the 0.1 to 0.2 ETH range. They had one pump to a local high, and then pretty much a slow decline to below mid price. And here's the chart for the Phoenixes. I saw those around 0.15, 0.12. Now they're at 0.06. y00ts, I saw some sales around the 0.15 area. So they're of course live on the show here. They're steaming back up. But as of yesterday, or as of just a few hours ago, they were back to 0.05. The point here, just like these hype cycles, trading windows just feel like they've gotten shorter and shorter. And it honestly feels like if you're not minting these with the intention to sell in the first like 10 to 15 minutes, you probably just got to sit these out and then see
Yeah.
if anything can catch meaningful traction or a real thesis to get in. But even trying to swing trade and momentum trade on these has been a death trap this week.
Yeah. And just in general, people aren't clicking on Coinbase NFT when they're looking at NFTs right now. If it's not OpenSea and perhaps X2, Y2 even, or one of these aggregator sites, and I don't think Coinbase NFT is really on any of the aggregators. So to me, like that, it's a pretty big red flag, especially since tomorrow we're going to have Digi and potentially Ute attention. That why are people going to go to this random Tiger Mint, right? So, cool. Was there anything else into this weekend that you had to touch on, or is that pretty much it?
That was mostly it. We got a new curated for next week. We can touch that on next week's show.
Yeah, it kind of looks cool.
It does look cool. I like the art on this one. I guess we can quickly pull it up. It's animated. It's colorful. It's going to be 400 supply, but still, I don't know that it's going to be the one to buck the trend. It's called Raster. It's got pretty standard Dutch auction price style. We'll see it render here live. It goes kind of on an ongoing fashion. I don't know if it evolves forever. I haven't had a chance to really dive in on it yet, but you can see it's not just like a 3 to 5 second animation loop. It goes for a decent period of time. Our blocks need something to revive it right now. The squiggles have been doing well, but other than that, it's been pretty barren with respect to liquidity. All the mints, if they're able to mint out, they're suffering pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think ending the show on a bullish note, maybe the biggest news from this week was Ticketmaster with their big NFT announcement that they are going to be working with Flow to allow their partners to start offering tickets as NFTs. And I was reading the TechCrunch article about this. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Oh, I think the biggest takeaway for me was that event organizers can make these NFTs available before, during, or after the event. So in my head, I was thinking these are going to be like collectibles after an event. They would just airdrop you the digital version of your ticket. But if you could get these before, now the secondary ticket market could potentially move on chain, right? And instead of going through Ticketmaster and paying their outrageous fees, you can start to control that, your ability to sell, resell. That would be huge. I think everyone who's been talking about use cases for NFTs, I think tickets for events has been one of the primary use cases.
Yeah.
This is absolutely coming. Hopefully it removes the middleman and we can cut out these fees like we're seeing kind of happen in the marketplaces right now. That would be an amazing outcome. It's going to be on Flow. I think it's a huge win for Flow. I think we joke maybe because of Dapper Labs and other than Top Shot, some of their NFTs haven't performed too well, but they seem to be doing more to appeal to the masses and like the masses use cases than the other blockchains right now. So clearly that's what they're going after. So I think this is definitely bullish for Flow and Dapper Labs. And I hope they're able to pull us off. I'm certainly there's going to be a learning curve, right? And people aren't even going to have wallets or even know what these things are at first. But hopefully it helps to onboard folks.
Yeah, and Ticketmaster, I think it's bullish on that because I've always thought of this as a Ticketmaster killer. But if Ticketmaster is going to be on board with it, and they are going to have it as a selling point that, hey, less scams this way. We're giving you a way that there's going to be more authenticity. And they were able to do this a little bit in the past, as they say here. The events at like the Super Bowl, they gave out a lot of NFTs as part of that event. So you could set it up however you want. But I think long term, it's going to be here it's not right now. It's like an add-on where it's like, well, why do you care about having an NFT if like the ticket's what works? So I think if the tickets become the primary use of it on there is the NFT is the ticket
Mhm.
versus now it's kind of like a souvenir, so to speak,
Right.
is the NFT. So yeah, I think that'll be one to watch for in the next few months. I would expect that by the year 2024, we're going to see a lot more use cases like this. Um, and I'm just putting that out what like long out because I'm not sure if like next summer, like early in April time, let's say, when concerts and stuff like that start ramping up again. Um, I do know there's some leagues, the sports leagues, that are starting to look into doing things like this for their tickets and for potentially season ticket holders. They roll it out for first and things like that. So definitely a step forward in that side of things and using NFTs in everyday life, which that's what we're most bullish on with NFTs, less so on the PFP stuff, more so on the use cases of them,
Right.
which some of those will come hand in hand. But yeah, this is definitely a good story that we covered a little bit earlier this week. Monday
Well,
is a holiday, so next week we probably we won't do Monday, but we'll let people know from there whether we're doing like Tuesday, Friday, or something like that. We'll get a tweet out for it as well. But you excited for this weekend? You got big plans? Gonna be away from the computer, touching grass, or not
yeah,
much?
it's gonna be a family weekend. Not going anywhere. It's my daughter's birthday, so it's family coming
Nice.
in, celebrate that. Um, I had high hopes for the NFT action for this week. I've been let down. I'm hoping that maybe we get a surprise. I don't know if it's going to be from Utes or the Digis and Gabe, or uh, a mystery party to be determined. But
Yeah.
I'm optimistic. But wish everyone a great weekend. For those out touching grass, it'll be a good one for that. Enjoy the last few days of summer here.
Cool. All right. And yeah, enjoy the weekend. We will catch you guys again next week.